Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Larry Souter, and welcome to Stories of Amazing Grace. We're coming to you from Bixler Chapel at the Madison Church of Christ in Madison, Tennessee. Thank you for joining us on YouTube. Some of you are watching on praiseandharmony.tv and for our live audience. If you'd like to be a part of the live audience, come see us the first Wednesday of each month, 6:30, right here in Bixler Chapel at the Madison Church of Christ in Madison, Tennessee. We'd be glad to have you. Our theme scripture always comes from Romans 8:38 through 39. I think I've used this a couple times before, but we'll try it one more time anyhow. And I am convinced that nothing can separate us from God's love. Neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither our fears for today nor our worries about tomorrow. Not even the powers of hell can separate us from God's love. Two guests tonight, Lytle Thomas with the Nashville Inner City Ministry. He is the founder and president. And also Shayla. She has been involved with the Nashville Inner City Ministry as a volunteer and still active with it now. She's going to have some comments. Lytle heads up his staff of 22 full-time, part-time co-workers, bringing hope to young people living in Nashville's inner city. He began the ministry in the 70s with one bus, a few volunteers, and a vision to reach every boy and girl living in Nashville's inner city. And he's still at it some 40-plus years later. And you'll meet Lytle and Shayla right after this.
Growing up in the inner city, I see a lot of families struggling with one parent. You have the single moms trying to take care of 4 or 5 kids, and it's hard. A lot of our children suffer because they're not getting the attention that they need from that one parent because the parent is so busy trying to make money or trying to make it possible for those children to succeed in life.
A community outreach center has a brand new place to mentor, tutor, and train thousands of Nashville kids thanks to the Predators. The team helped to renovate a 30,000 square foot area of the Nashville Inner City Ministry. 8 rooms were transformed. They added new furniture, technology, and interior design that has a Nashville Predators flair.
This used to be an empty, rather dank and cold space, unpainted cinder block walls. And it is now a very inviting social circumstance, an educational place to be where kids come, they learn.
The Nashville Inner City Ministry is dedicated to empowering at-risk kids through educational and vocational programs. The center services more than 4,000 kids and their families every year.
It's a dream come true. It's answer to prayer. And I'll be lucky to get through this. I was doing so great until the children walked in. When they walked in the building a while ago, I started crying. And it's just such a blessing because so many children in the city are hurting.
Inner city didn't do what they do. The people on the streets, they'll be worse than what they are now because inner city gives them hope.
Once they see one of those big yellow buses or a van that says Inner City Ministry on there, they know they're finna go have a good time. They might even eat good.
It's difficult to believe, but there are a number of Nashville children who often go to bed hungry. In James chapter 2, verse 16, it says, "If one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it?" We want to feed the spirit, but we also want to feed the stomach of a hungry child that attends our activities and programs.
Sometimes when you're living in the projects and when you're living in like what some people may call the ghetto, that's all you see, and you never ever look outside. It's like you're trapped in a prison cell that just has 4 walls and that's all you ever look at. But however, when Inner City comes around and they're able to pick us up in those buses, it's like somebody just paying our bail in jail or something. We're actually able to get out and see a whole other side of life.
And I think that's a good thing for the buses to run every Monday and pick up these children. And I just want to thank them so much for that.
Lytle Thomas, come on up. Have a seat. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Larry.
You know, we go back a long ways. You may not know how far back, but I was doing some volunteer work with the children's TV program at the Radnor Church of Christ when you were there in 1979 or so.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, I remember. You were at Radnor, I remember.
Yeah, but I don't think we had any contact. I just knew you had a nice plush office up there in the,
Yeah, sure.
off the auditorium. Now,
Good memories. Good memories.
and then I did a story on you in the 80s on Channel 5. I don't know if you recall that or not.
No.
No.
I've had everything.
Well, you sure
replaced
liked it
except
at the
my
time.
brain.
You sure liked it at the time.
You made a real impact on me. I can tell that.
Evidently.
All right.
Well, I saw something in your bio on the Inner City website. That's something you saw in Vietnam affected you concerning children. Tell me about that.
It was the children were so trapped in hopelessness, and when you look in their eye, Larry, there was something missing, and it wasn't just in a child or two or just one community. It was across the city. I was stationed in Saigon, and it was I'd see children climbing on the city dumps and the place where the military dumped their waste, and they were out there looking for food, leftovers and things that was thrown away, and talking to the children that they were hungry, and I'd give children money to so they could go get food. Of course, I was a military policeman, and they told us not to deal with the children because they were afraid that we would be targeted, and they'd use the children to shoot us or blow up a bomb or something on us. But I found out in working with the children, they could tell me who the VC were. They could tell me who was dangerous. And so if I fed the children and got the children on my side, then the children would come and tell me, hey, VC, you know, and they protected me. So while I was feeding the young'uns and not getting caught by the officers, I was able to, my safety, I have to contribute was very well because God took care of me, and the children really contributed, I think, to my safety.
When you came back to the States and started Nashville Inner City Ministry.
Well, what really started it was, and you had a question here, how God had providentially affected your life.
Answer that question.
And that is a great question. And I wish this is something that every believer and every person on planet Earth would take a few moments and really reflect on their relationship to God and analyze your life personally and give God credit for what God has done. So we don't give God enough credit for what He's done, and see how He's affected your life. Let me tell you, this is what got the ministry started. My wife grew up down the road from me. We was a mile apart. We grew up in Giles County, down on Brownlow Creek, and so she was the girl next door. And so we got married and moved to Nashville. But when she was a little girl, she grew up on the farm, and they milked cows, and they sold milk. And the man who came out and picked up the milk was an African American. Now, in that culture, it wasn't a bunch of racists going around bad-mouthing everybody all the time, but people was told to stay with their own kind. That was pretty well the general rule. But Sandra, this truck driver that came out and picked up the milk every week, twice a week, would give Sandra a candy bar. And so she could not be taught to be a racist because he loved her and brought her a candy bar. Fast forward till we get to Green Hills. Married, going to church at Green Hills. Doris Billingsley asked the church to support VBS. Everybody to bring somebody to VBS. So Sandra, being the good girl she was, she went out to invite some people to come to VBS and didn't know how to do it. Never had been trained. There's another flag. Didn't know how to do it and never had been trained how to be evangelistic. So she goes down in the Green Hills area, down the 12th Avenue, Edge Hill area, on a city park, and she was really distressed. I mean, she was really stressed because she wanted to bring somebody to VBS. She wanted to be pleasing to God. She wanted to bring somebody to VBS. And so she crawled up on a picnic table, bowed her head, and prayed and said, Lord, please lead me to someone that I can invite to VBS. opened her eyes, and there was a group of little children standing around her, looking at her. I'm sure they were thinking, who's this crazy white woman sitting here on this table talking to herself? But whatever they did, it worked. And she invited them, would y'all go to VBS with me tonight? And they said, sure. Well, I'm a mechanic. She calls me at the shop and said, which car do I take? So we had this 1967 Dodge Fastback Coronet. And four-seater, no extra. So, and it had a 383 in it, 4-barrel, pass anything on the highway except a service station. So I didn't know where she was going. I said, take the Coronet, take it, because I knew she was going into a high-crime area. Well, she went down and picked the children up, came back to Green Hills, came in the parking lot driving way too fast, but that was normal for her. Pulled around, did a power slide in the gravel. And I was walking across the parking lot and hollered at me and said, help me take these children to Bible class. I opened the door. I've never seen so many children in my life. I think 17 children crawled out of the back of that car. There were so many I had to borrow a church bus to get the church bus to take them home. Now, this is the point. Had the gentleman who had not given her a candy bar and had not demonstrated love to her, she would have never invited those children of color to Green Hills. She would have not crossed that line, but when she looked at them, she did not see black children. She saw children that just happened to be of color. And we underestimate how God, I believe with all of my heart, I know God worked through the man driving the milk truck to prepare her to start a ministry that would reach so many hundreds and thousands of children. And it just goes on and on and on. The good news just keeps coming because she prayed, she did what God said, and God blessed her. And I want all of us to look at our lives and see what good things God has done in our life that we did not give him credit for.
We look at some pictures here that took these from some videos I did in the past, some video stills. That's the Green Hills. That's the first bus.
That's the first bus. That's bus number 1. Yeah.
Okay, next picture. This is your wife, and who is this here?
This is Ashley. Now, I got a story about Ashley.
All right.
Ashley's mother asked us to take custody of her. She had gotten in some legal problems, and she asked us to take custody of her, and we got her at 6 months. And so she grew up with us, a powerful little girl. Ashley, growing up with us, she followed Sandra. Sandra would go out in the community and knock on doors every week, 3 or 4 or 5 times a week, and she'd run a bus. And so, and buses, but I think when she had to quit because she got sick, she was running, I think, 9 or 12 buses, something like that. And so Ashley would ride with her. When Ashley was, I think, 4 years old, she would drag, we have telephones on the wall phone, back when you had a telephone on the wall before cell phone. And so Ashley, on Saturday night, we did not ask her. On Saturday night, she would drag that chair up to that phone and call her grandmother and say, Granny, will you come to church with me tomorrow? Larry, she did that week after week, month after month, just as consistent. And it broke my heart because Granny would, oh yes, I'll be there, but Granny would never come. And I would try to distract her where, boy, this is real faith. I would get to the point where I would try to distract her from, it would break her heart when Granny didn't come. And so, but she kept on. She was persistent. She would get that chair and drag up there. One Sunday, Granny walked in. I didn't believe it. It was great. There was Granny. And Wayne Green, which is one of our evangelists, met Granny and asked her, could he come over and have a Bible study with her? So he went to Granny's house and set up and studied with her, and studied with her for over a year. Come find out, Granny couldn't read. She wanted to learn how. She wanted to read in her Bible where the Lord told her to be baptized. She wanted to read that and understand it. So he studied with her and baptized her husband, baptized, I think, 9 of her 11 children. I think my brain don't work well, but we're getting there somewhere. And a whole bunch of in-laws and outlaws and, the whole family. When we buried Granddaddy, there was 100, and I remember this figure, there was 111 children, there was 111 grandchildren and great-grandchildren. that had come under the influence of the gospel because this little girl called Granny come to church. We miss so many opportunities. People are hurting. And Shayla, and I want us to remember to ask Shayla when she gets up here about people that make evangelism difficult. It's not difficult. It is simple. It is so simple. Just love one another and go, and like the man who drove the milk truck. Just do a good thing for somebody. And God, it's about God. It's not about us. It's never about us. We sell ourselves short all the time, but it's not about us. It's God. And this girl she's responsible for so much.
Wow. Next one. Are you selling full of brush here? What's going on?
It's what it looks like there. I had hair there, weighed about 150 pounds less. We're just out visiting. And that's where you reach a city. If we as Christians will ever decide to obey the Lord, that's sort of a negative kind of statement in it, but I didn't mean to be. Get out of the church building and get Jesus out in the community where people live. We have the answer. Love is the answer. And if we'll go, so many of us, and Shayla talks about this, so many of us try to make an academic relationship with God. You're not going to have an academic relationship with God. I got news for you. You may think you're smart, but you are not smart enough to grasp the broadness of God Almighty. But you can love. God made us so he could love us. And we need to go love people. People are hurting. People are struggling. Just like the girl said in the video, Tiffany, she came out of settled court and been working with us for a long, long time. And she said it, the single mothers raising 6 children, it's difficult. I cannot imagine being responsible to raise 6 children by myself in the inner city with very limited or no income. That's tough.
But you raised 15?
Raised 15, but I had Sandra helping me. And Shayla will tell you I was never accused of being a good parent. So I do know that but they were good kids. Talked to one of them today. He is 66 years old. I told him, boy, you're getting old. I'm proud I'm young.
Wow.
But they all turned out good kids, good kids.
All right, see what else we got here.
That was way back in the beginning. We developed, when we started the Nashville Inner City Ministry, moved from the Radnor Bus Ministry to Nashville Inner City Ministry with the help of Dr. Ira North and Mayor Richard Fulton. And it's not what you know, it's who you know. Great things happen. God is powerful. And so we had developed what we call the multiple bus concept, because when we go in the community and we load a bunch of children up, we would have trouble on the buses because the older children and the younger children riding the same bus wasn't working well, because what happens, Mama tells big brother when they get on the bus, now you protect your little brothers and sisters. You watch out for them. And so somebody do something to one of them, next thing you know, he draws back, hit this one, bumps this one over here, and then you got a fight going on, and it's rough. So we divided the children according to age, and this is multiple bus. You put preschool on one bus, then second, third, and fourth grade on another bus, and then fifth, sixth on another bus, and teenagers on another bus. And it worked out so much better that way. Then when the buses pulled out of the community, they could move out to different churches and go to different locations that just taught that age group.
How many children do you pick up a week?
Well, right now with COVID going on, we are picking 400 a week, but we have picked up to 1,300 a week.
And how many buses do you have for that?
We were running about 40, 45, 50 buses because they have a load limit, and I don't want to get nailed by the insurance company that you're overloading, because we would not overload a bus, I can assure you. We would not do that.
You lost one of your main man.
Yes, my oldest boy I was talking to you about. I'm playing out in the weeds here with you. He was driving. See, back in those days, you could use teenage drivers. Now the government's gotten involved, and that's been one of our biggest setbacks, because you have to have a CDL and all that. But back when I started, we used teenage bus drivers. They were great drivers, a little fast, but they were great drivers. And so Billy was going out, and he went to settle court. And he loaded, I think, 89 on one bus, and it was a 66 passenger bus. And man, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. And I was lecturing him. And next week, come back, I don't know, 70, 80, 85 on it. And I said, well, I'll show you how to do this. So I got on the wheel and drove that Sunday. I got there. And I tell you what, Larry, those kids loaded. When I told the girl, secretary was taking names, I said, when they get on now, when I get to 66, you tell me. And so she did. And I shut the door. And I saw this little hand work its way through the rubber flap on the door, and he was doing like this. And all I could hear, all I could see was Jesus saying, suffer the little children to come unto me. I grabbed that door and thought, everybody come on. So if you're a part of our insurance company now, y'all shouldn't have seen that. Just turn that off. That was years ago. We don't do that anymore. That was such a blessing.
All right.
Oh.
This is a fleet of buses?
Yes, we were moving, moving day when we were moving on up. We were moving from Radnor down to Anthony's Drive when we bought the terminal downtown, and that was our next step before we went to Apex, where we are now.
Right, and the kids waving.
That's just the way it is. I mean, instead of shut up and sit down, we have a good time when we go.
Now, there was a time when you said, we spend too much money on buildings. We don't need buildings. We got church buildings out the
Right.
We don't need buildings.
That's right.
You got a big building down here.
Yes, I have.
What's the deal?
Well, you don't listen. Nobody listens to what I say to start with. No, the reason was I did not want a building. I was determined to not have a building because I thought it was a total waste of funds because we have buildings all over town. And we tried hard to function without a building. Have you ever tried to baptize somebody in the Church of Christ on Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock? You cannot get in a building anywhere. You have got to go through a deacon who's got to call an elder and get permission, and then you have to go through the custodian, and he's going to shut you down right quick. You're not going to get in the building. So when I really realized I was going to have to change my philosophy, one of our young married couples that was doing so well, Tony Carter came to me and said, Lyle, y'all taught us to marry and did well, but you didn't teach Angela and I how to be married. We could not get a place to where you can have a prompted meeting or a counseling session. You have to call and get permission to use the building. And I thought, what I'm doing is not going to work. We've got to have a place that's our place, where we have the keys, where we can go in.
All right, now tell me what goes on in that building besides baptisms. You've got other things going on down there.
Well, we're not doing enough baptism. We've got to repent and do more. But it's a place where we call it the Mall of Hope. It's a place where we fed this past year with COVID coming on and corporate sponsors, and we need to talk about corporate involvement. We fed, I think, 50,000 meals to children because they wouldn't go to school. Our children eat at school. And when they were stopped from going to school, our children were going hungry. Many of our children were going hungry. We had a little boy that came to Bible class, and we feed at our Bible class now. And it's not ham and cheese. I mean, we feed a good meal. And Cantrell was up teaching the class, and a little fella came up and started pulling on his trousers. And Brother Cantrell, yeah, I'm teaching. Brother Cantrell, when are we going to eat? The little fellow was hungry. And we see more and more. And Shayla, she'll come home, and it's not good for a young lady to be angry. She'll come home mad because we'll have volunteers that'll come in, and they will try to punish the kid. Well, you're not going to get to eat tonight, and that is a punishment. They mean well, they just don't have any sense. And they need to learn something about Jesus. And so Shayla has built a reputation of helping them, probably needs to hone her language a little bit and helping them to understand. We feed. That's one thing we don't do. So we feed a lot of children, and we have classes, and we have our staff there, and then we do counseling and everything that the community needs there.
You have some vocational training there as well?
We are moving toward vocational. We are now starting having with the corporate partners, we're going to have a job training program, and then we're going to have a culinary training program. Really? And getting corporate involved has been a great blessing for us. People told us all along, corporate will not work with you because you're too spiritual. We found out that that's not the case at all. Dr. Todd Flowers, somebody asked some corporate company, said, well, what about the church? And he said, the church is our partner. The Inner City Church of Christ is our partner. And we have, I think, 60 churches that support the ministry. In Madison, I want to thank y'all for y'all's support. Y'all have been supporting me for the last 100 years. It's fantastic. I mean, I think when you delivered my first support check, Buck Dozier brought it and he had hair. That's how long it's been since we were there. Fantastic. And that's another one of those things that you'll underestimate, how important your support is. Because when we do what we do and we live on the edge, when you go home at night and lay down and try to go to sleep, you know that you got a church that's behind you and your family's going to be taken care of. That means a lot, because I've never been accused of being a man of great faith. And when I know I got somebody like the Madison Church behind me, it makes all the difference in the world. And I want to thank y'all for that. And it's powerful. It's powerful support. And it really makes things possible for us in a very blessed way. And there's been thousands of lives positively influenced because of your support, and we thank you for that.
What else, what else you got in your notes there? Something about the riots?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I don't know where that is because I don't read, but okay. I typed these up, but it's good. Another one of them is how the impact that we've had. And remember back, y'all are too young to remember this, there was riots in Los Angeles, Rodney King riots, I think they call them. Yeah. Well, that night we got, and we just don't trust God, folks. We just say, oh, God's so short. The riots was going on that night. I'm getting phone calls telling me, don't go in the community tonight, don't run the buses, don't run the buses. And I had so many of them coming and telling me, and I told one of them, I said, are you telling me the worst thing's going to happen to me? And this is good. The worst thing that's going to happen to me today is I go to heaven? Is that the worst thing you're telling is going to happen to me? I'm going to go out here tonight and get killed and go to heaven. That's the worst thing that's going to happen to me. That's not all bad. I tell you, it's not bad at all. We ran that night. We had churches calling, forbidding their members to go teach children about Jesus on that night. I drove that night, got in the community, and you know what I found? I got aggravated. We could not get the children loaded and get out of the community because the parents kept coming out, not putting the children on the bus and saying thank you, walk around the bus to the driver's window and engage in a conversation and just say, thank you for not giving up on us tonight. Thanks for not being afraid. We want our children to go to Bible class. That happened over, and I was late. Everybody was late getting to Bible class that night because the attitude of the parents was so positive. And so we undersell ourselves when we don't do what God said do and know He's going to protect us and He's going to be there with us and we'll make an impact. Was that your question?
It's pretty close.
Okay. And that's a powerful message that you don't give up, you keep going. We keep doing what God said do, and God will bless us.
Is it trying to bring Shayla Cartwright up here?
Be all right.
All right, come on up here.
Come on, baby.
This is a volunteer with Inner City Ministry, and you've been impacted by Nashville Inner City Ministry. Tell me how.
Well, where do I start?
I hope we can have this on tape. If she doesn't know what to say, it'll be a first time in my life.
No, well, I got the privilege. Well, it's not really a privilege for me. It's a privilege for them, my granny and my granddaddy. Because at 2 years old, my father had passed away because he had diabetes and, was it cancer, I think?
He had everything. Yeah.
And so I adopted my granddaddy and my granny that night, and I've lived with them ever since. Inner City has impacted me because it's given a lot of my friends hope. Mm-hmm. When we go through the community, you can see the despair, the poverty, the angry, the running away from homes as you're driving through the streets of the projects. A lot of my friends they come from homes that are not homes, so they run away from home. They start getting into gun violence, gang banging. They just do things that I don't do, but they do. But so it's been impactful to see how that I tell them to come to church and then they change their ways. They go to school now, they're getting good grades and things like that.
You're also a bus captain?
Unfortunately.
How do you control the kids on a bus? I've ridden on those buses. They're not always VBS, as I remember from my youth. They can be a little rowdy. So how do you control those?
Well, you just got to be firm with them. And when you're firm, you turn around. Like you're firm with them, and then you turn around and say, "I'm sorry, baby. I love you. Let's have a good night," and try to change the tone because they get yelled at all the time at home. They're getting cussed at. So when they come to Inner City or they get on my bus, I try to take them away from that environment. And so I have to be firm to get them to listen, but then I change my tone as the night goes on.
Don't let me get in the weeds here, Shayla, but one of the things that Shayla and I really respect and I appreciate about her, she has a lot of struggles with our volunteers, adults that come in, because they come from what we call a middle-class value system. They don't know that they've walked into another culture. They want children to, what is it, good kid's a quiet kid or something like that. And they expect the child to take their instructions. They say, y'all sit down and be quiet. They expect the child to sit down and be quiet. And the children, and it's too long to go into on this show, there's a reason the children don't take instructions. There's a real legitimate reason why they don't do that. And I think America that I know has missed that a lot, and the churches has missed that a lot. And so what we've done, if people don't do what we want them to do, if we have to get out of our comfort zone, we just push them away and stay away from them. And society is lock them up and throw away the key. That's not going to work. We have to show them the love, and we've learned this. It's through conflict that we teach our most effective lessons. Because when the children have never been used or been exposed to loving and forgiving, the children watch us. They're not going to listen to what I used to be anyway, a good, great teenage teacher.
Good grief.
But settle down, girl. But the thing is, the people watching me watched how I acted while I was teaching, and that's the lesson they learned. They can't tell you a thing I taught them, and I was good. They can't tell you a thing I taught them, but they can tell you how I acted while I was teaching them. And so it is...
They knew you cared. They knew you cared.
Shayla gets so frustrated with some of our workers that come in, and they try to boss the children. And that's not going to work. I tell you what, I have confidence in our kids. You're not going to boss them. They're going to come back at you right quick.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Yes.
Most of our kids that come from our communities don't have relationships with their parents. Sometimes the mother's at home and she's got 7 other children that she has to tend to, so they don't get that one-on-one care at home. So when they come to Apex, we try to build our relationships. Through our relationships with our children is the only way that they're going to listen to us and follow our instructions. If we don't have a relationship, they're off the walls, charted.
And that has to be a trusting relationship.
You have to be in their corner. I went to school all of my school years, and I had to fight with my school because they would say I was on the 3rd floor. I'd really be on the 2nd floor, but they say I was on the 3rd floor, not in class. I wasn't in class, but I wasn't on the 3rd floor. I was just on the 2nd. And that is the problem that our kids have. They don't have anyone in their corner that's going to fight for them and tell the truth and hold them. Our children have to fight through their problems. They're not in what was it? They're in survival mode most of their time.
Yeah.
They're not in a civil lifestyle. They have to fight. They have to argue. They have to. Sometimes they have to shoot. But so that's where we are with our kids. We have to have a relationship with them in order to do anything.
And that's difficult and this is sad, but that's difficult for a lot of Christians. Mm-hmm. To be a loving, patient, forgiving teacher. And we watch it, I go through the list of people that we've had great success. Every one of them had a loving, patient mentor in their life that spent time with them. Sheriff Darren Hall says when the people get out of jail, who is standing at the door? If they don't have somebody at the door to meet them, to move them out and into a safe environment to where they can get their life together and keep it together, they're going to be a repeat and go back in. And so, and Sheriff also says Nashville Inner City Ministry has changed this city. Now, it's not doing it right now. With 400 and COVID and all this, we have to get bigger numbers and have to reach more people. But there's something about, and this goes back to the candy bar, it's something about when a group of children get on a bus and go to a learning center or a church building, and Christians come and love them and spend time with them and feed them, and they go back home, there's something that goes on there that we don't see, but God does. And there's something there that changes children's lives. And when Darren was questioned about why he's tearing jails down and other cities are building jails, and so he had them investigate to see what's going on, and he got to checking with them, and he said, do y'all have an inner city ministry? And it makes an impact. And I've told that story in the room with church leaders, and church leaders would sort of scoff at it. We've gotten to the point we don't trust God's word. We don't trust God. And it's important for us to learn to trust God and just do what God says. You know, our ministry is real simple. It is, we reach the children, work through the children to build a relationship with the parents, and then reach that family, and then work through that family to reach a community. Nothing complicated about that. But we try to make it so complicated. If you've been raised in the church, you know people that's attended 40 years of evangelism classes and never gone to do any evangelism. Never got outside and gone knock doors and asked somebody, hey, could I invite you? Do you have a spiritual need? We have a lot of success with that question. Do you have a spiritual need? Is there something we could pray about? And I remember one time when we really had a force out going, and they'd ask and say, well, their grandmother was in the hospital. And then another team would go to the hospital and would pray with grandmother. And it would just bring that family together. It's such healing takes place. We have to get Jesus out of the church building and get him in the community where people live.
You mentioned some other people in the notes that you gave me who have had lives that have been changed. William Brown, Ashley Lyman, Wayne Green. Can you tell me about some of those?
William Brown, this is classic. This is the kind of story everybody would love to have. William was he's been a real character in life. He wasn't a church-going guy. I mean, he's not. I did a TV show with him after he was converted, and he said, you know, I'd go a whole year and never mention God. Never even think about God. It was just absent from God. Well, William's a little girl. He got a lady pregnant, and they had a baby girl, and so William was involved in that baby's life, which I commend. So many are not, but William was. And William got real sick, and he was in the hospital, and the little girl was in our youth group, and she had been taught how to share her faith with other people. So she goes to the hospital and sits down beside him and said, Daddy, I'm afraid you're going to die, and you've never been baptized. And William said, well, I am, tell me about baptism. Why do I want to be baptized? And so she started studying with him. And as time goes by, a few days and a few weeks go by, William came to church on Wednesday night and told him he wanted to be baptized. And so they baptized him. And Ashley, her mama, calls him like new.
Brand new.
brand new. And I think that's so biblical. She does not call him even today, and that was years ago. She still calls him brand new. She don't call him, we call him, what do we call Brown? We call him his last name Brown. But he drives buses. When we want the playground for our children that we put out there in the parking lot, at the Apex out there in the playground, we need $10,000. You know who showed up with it? William Brown showed up. I want those children to have a place to play. And I remember when he was a drug dealer. And a pimp and all that stuff, and you know, and he was not the kind of person you wanted people hanging around. And he sold drugs out of a store in South Nashville. And I preached one of our young adults. Was a great guy. He died, and I preached his funeral. And I was wearing a suit and went back by William's store and walked in. This is before he was converted. And he said, Lyle, what are you doing dressed up? And I said, I just preached Terry Watson's funeral. And a little boy was standing there getting by something. And he looked at me and he said, that's my daddy. It wasn't his daddy. Terry was a Christian that ministered to all the kids in that community. And he looked at Terry as his daddy. And so now William is taking on that role of ministering to everybody. And he drives on Sunday. Now, he does have a little time schedule struggle there. He may show up a little late, you know, but he brings them in. You can send him anywhere after anybody, and William will bring him back in. He sat down to one of our teenagers, and this is things that I want you to pray about. I want you to pray about people like Shayla, because Shayla's so gifted. And this is how I've learned this. The devil targets them. The ones that's gifted, and we see great things are going to happen in their lives. the devil comes after them 6 ways from Sunday and will destroy their lives. We had this young man, he had so much talent. He was going places for us. And Brown sat down with him and said, son, you better get close to Larry Cantrell and you better not take your eyes off him because the devil's coming after you. He's going to stop you. See, William knows the devil. He served him long enough. He knows him. And he said, he's coming after you. And I think it was just 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. I signed the paper for him, this young man, to be arrested because the devil hit him and destroyed him. And he made some wrong decisions and stole some money and so forth and so on. So, and he was on his way. But his daddy died, left him a bunch of money.
His mama died.
His mama died. Then in about a month after his daddy died, my wife had a nervous breakdown. She was his mentor, and she had a nervous breakdown. And so everybody he had confidence in, he trusted, I used a trust word a while ago, were gone on him. And he found out girls are made different than boys, and he just made a lot of wrong decisions. Made a lot of wrong decisions, Larry. I'm sorry, but he made a lot of wrong decisions.
You made a wrong choice of words,
It's probably a good time for questions. So let's see if you have any for our guests tonight.
I wanted to ask Shayla a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess, how old are you first?
18.
18. So you're out of high school.
Yes, ma'am.
And what are you doing with your life?
Well, I had some problems getting into college this past fall, so I have to wait till the next fall to go to college. But I will be studying criminal justice, and I want to minor in political science.
Let me add to that the reason that she's having a little trouble getting in college is because she was on the second floor when she was on the third floor.
I said that.
That's the real world there. Shayla came in, and she got her job working in daycare, and when she got out of high school, got her job, moved out, and went on her way. And my wife, had gone into Alzheimer's. And I was having both knees replaced, and so Shayla come in one day, stopped by to see us, and Sandra was really struggling, and I couldn't help hardly. I mean, I'm laid up here with both knees all messed up. And she said, well, I'm going to quit my job and come home and take care of Mama. And I said, you can't do that. You've got a life to live. You've got to go on and work. We appreciate it. We love you. She said, I've always told you. Mama took care of me. She gave up her life to take care of me when I was 2 years old. That's when you came to us, when you was 2. You adopted us at 2. Mm-hmm. And she said she gave up her life to take care of me, and I'm going to take care of her. So she quit her job and moved in with us, and it's supposed to be taking care of Sandra. She won't take care of me. She's taking care of Sandra, but and she's there, and I'm encouraging her to go out and appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Sandra will ask 10, 15 times a day, where's Shayla? Where's Shayla? But Shayla's got to go on and take care of, she got to go on and take care of Shayla and get her life started, I think. But she disagrees with me. But she disagrees with me on everything. So.
Everything. Have you thought about training people? You've got something that most of us don't know about, and that's how to talk to the children and how to build that. And I think you have potential to write a manual, to do some training.
Well, sometimes I don't know how to talk to the children.
Well, that's what you have to say. I'm a school teacher. I did that for years and years, and I know exactly what you're talking about, how hard that is.
Yes, ma'am.
But you've got something, and you need to think about writing that down and sharing that, because it's just valuable.
Yes, ma'am.
It really is.
One of our job training programs that we were going to start, a young man came to our Conquerors Luncheon, and he's heard her speak. She speaks at all of my fundraisers. And he said, I'm going to start for Inner City, this is corporate involvement, I want to start a sales program where inner city kids can learn how to be salesmen, salespeople, salesperson, whatever the right word is, how to sell, and said they can make good living, make marketing, they can make a lot of money. And they said, I want to start that program, and I need a person from the inner city, from your team. I need one of your people to lead that, and let me train them, and them lead that program. And so they said, oh, we got some guys. They started naming it off, and he said, oh, wait a minute. I know who I want. I want the one that speaks at the Conquerors Luncheon, and he wanted Shayla. So he wanted. So we have been overrun with so many other things, and COVID and so forth. We ain't got to start that program, but he is still in the hunt, and he still says he wants Shayla. And so if that comes about, we'll see. That'll be up to her to make that decision whether she wants to open that field. But I think it's interesting that you identified, you know, Larry, I raised all these kids, and I was youth minister at Radnor and had a very successful youth program. It started Inner City Ministry. And when I look back on them, all the children that I protected, they've had a struggle in life. They haven't done well spiritually. They really had struggled. But the ones I'd throw on the bus and put them out there, like Shayla, get on that microphone and tell people what's in your heart, you know, and they cut her no slack and throw them out there. They have been successful. You talk about Dr. Terry Briley at Lipscomb, Randy Simmons, Fort Myers, something church in Fort Myers, the biggest church of Christ in Florida probably, Mike McPherson,
Makes you
Wayne
feel good, doesn't
Cuomo,
it?
Gary Pollock, huh?
Makes you feel good, doesn't it?
It's all my training. It was all me that did it.
I know.
Yes.
Anybody else?
Yes, I would like to know altogether how many kids did you adopt?
I haven't adopted any. We just raised foster children. Now, we've had a lot of children in the home. I'll have St. Thomas out there where he's working on my knees, and the girl come in. I used to live with you.
Okay, Daddy, answer the question.
15. 15. But they were long-term. They were long-term.
You just get the talking? What are you talking about?
They paid with the words. They paid with the words. But we had 15 long-term. And it's interesting. A lot of the children will meet you in there and say, well, I used to live with y'all. They didn't live with us, but we were a safe house that they would come to and spend the weekend with us. And in their mind, when they were back home, they knew they had a place to go, so they lived with us. That don't make a lot of sense, does it?
It does.
It does in their world. Yes, ma'am.
I want to compliment both of you for all the work that you have done.
Thank you.
And
Thank
I
you.
know that it's God working through you. But Shayla, I know you have another gift that God has given you that you don't even realize. You know how some people are bilingual?
Yes, ma'am.
And they can get jobs anywhere because they understand more than one language.
Mm-hmm.
And you have been blessed to learn more than one language. And it is really, really wonderful the way you're using that. And if you use it for the Lord, you will always be blessed.
Thank
and I
you.
am so proud of you.
Thank
Absolutely
you.
so proud of you. And Lyle, what you do it just brings tears to my eyes.
Couldn't do it without you. We couldn't do it without you. And
doesn't
y'all
do
pray
much.
for Sandra.
He doesn't do much.
Bless her heart. She's in rough road right now. When I married her, she was the meanest woman in Nashville, I thought. But, brother, she would go out into the projects.
She still is.
And she'd go out in the project and would wear her belt backwards and would carry a pistol and knock on doors and ask people to come, and went by herself and invited people to come and touch so many lives.
I saw on your website you had a survey of 126 teens. 71% have seen violent crime.
It's probably higher than that now.
72% have seen the sale of illegal drugs. 77% have had a parent incarcerated.
You want me to take that paper?
But 79% feel safe when at the inner city ministry facility activities.
That's powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they do feel safe.
What's the number one need that you need at inner city besides money?
Oh, yes, we need a lot of money. Love. We need good volunteers that will love the children when they're unlovable.
And teach the children.
Don't come down and try to boss the children, but and I address that, but we need people. And you know who are really successful? Is seniors, grandparents. Because our children trust a grandparent. They seem to have more trust for a grandparent.
Is that true, Sheila? Why is that?
I don't have trust for my grandparent,
yeah.
but other grandparents I do. Yeah, that's very true. Our children, they look at the grandparents as their own granny. They take on, it's security. It's really security. The children have to feel secure with you. That's what the relationship is about mostly, is security.
Before I die, I want to get as many grandmothers as I can get to come down to Apex and load up 4, 5, 6 loads of preschool children and bring them to Apex and feed them all the ice cream they can eat, and have those grandmothers and take them back home and turn them loose on whoever they're on. But, by the way, one of the new programs we're going to start, we got the giving bus. Gave out 50, am I right on that? No, 4,000, I got it here in a note somewhere.
Yeah, 4,000.
4,000 something boxes. And I mean, this is good stuff. This is diapers. It's expensive
paper,
stuff.
tissue,
Yeah, things they
covers.
can't get. It's expensive. But the box of diapers is $50. And we gave out 4,000 boxes off our giving bus. That's corporate sponsored. Didn't cost us a dime. All we have to do is go, because we have a relationship on the community. We can go out in the community. And the corporate wanted to get to the families that needed it. So we know who the families are that need it, and we can get them to the families that need it. And now we're going to start and I didn't have anything to do with this. They did this while I was in the hospital, I think. An ice cream truck. Mm-hmm. And boy, everybody's excited. Do you know the reputation of ice cream truck in the inner city? You know what the little drug dealer's going to say? Oh, Lytle's crossed over. He's selling drugs now. But going to start an ice cream truck because corporate said, hey, we want the children to have some ice cream. That's beautiful. We've got an ice cream company. It's going to fund. We ain't going to cost us anything. And we go give them ice cream. Boy, it won't be hard to get volunteers for that one, will it? It's going to be great. I want to tell one quick story.
Oh, God.
Shows the great teacher I am. I was teaching a group of young kids. They were probably third, fourth graders. And I had a brainstorm while I was teaching. I said, I want y'all, when you go home tonight, before you get ready to go to bed, I want you to pray to God Almighty, and I want you to pray in a real loud voice. Lord, please help me get my mama to come to church with me. Charity Atkins did that. She prayed out loud, real loud, Lord, help mama come to church with me. And so Valerie came. Now, Valerie was a person who had a reputation in the community. I was scared of her because you go down the street, she sat on the front row smoking, cutting, and cussing. I mean, playing cards. That was Valerie. She was rough. And so I was scared to go deal with her, but Sherry Reed went and built her relationship, and Valerie came to church with her daughter. And Valerie told me years later, when Charity prayed, I couldn't say no. So she came to church the next day. The next Sunday, she came with her. And then Sherry went and visited with her and built a relationship with her. And now Valerie volunteers with us and does so much and became, I think it was Agape had her as foster parent of the year. And all that life changed because a little girl prayed, Mama, come to church with me. That's powerful. That is powerful. I love Valerie to death. She made my wife a thing of flowers about 2 years ago, the artificial flowers. And, Sandra can't remember nothing. And so I carried it and sat down on the table and told her, Valerie made those for her. That lasted about a week or two, and then she said, who gave me those flowers? I said, I did. I went back and told Valerie. I told her I gave them to her, and she said, that's all right. Valerie and I have a biggest kick over that. And, but what we really need is we need you to come down and do a tour. You need to come down and sign up with Kenny and let him give you a tour. Don't go with anybody but Kenny. Let Kenny give you a tour. I'm not any good at giving tours. I'm just wore out. But Kenny will give you a tour and give you the big dream of what we're doing. We need your continued support, but you owe it yourself. You need to have a class, or 4, 5, 6, 7 of you come down, and we'll feed you. One of our girls that runs our kitchen program now grew up on our buses. Sandra used to carry them food when they were little bitty children, and now she works on our staff and runs the kitchen, and she's been to school, educated in culinary and all this, how to serve food. Man, she makes a good salad. It's good. And but y'all need to come down as a group. You need to get some classes to come down as a group and go on a tour. It'll be time well spent, because it's yours. Who would ever thought we started with that one bus stowed out there, and now we got, 13 acres downtown Nashville on flat ground? Who would have thought? Because a woman prayed, and a man gave a candy bar to a little girl. What a day, what a day.
Thank you, Lytle. Thank you, Sheila. Well, I was going to read this as a close, but you know the words already. God created the family first. Let's hear that.
Yes, God created the family first, the church to save the family, and the government to protect the family. But the family is God's small group.
There you go.
And we underestimate that.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you for joining us tonight. And share your story of amazing grace with someone this week. Good night.